Mesdames, Messieurs, bon.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us in this tropical heat. We could use any type of word to describe it, but we're delighted to be here for this. It's not a lecture or a conference, but it's what we call a controversy. We've got our two speakers here. Our subject is climate. Technology won't save us all. So, is technology compatible with sustainable development? The Industrial Revolution has been introduced and presented as dirty. There are a lot of other revolutions going on today. There are digital revolutions, and all of these are parts of the environmental and energy adventure. So has technological progress that has led to major advances and also challenges, can this solve our environmental challenges? The speakers who are here with me today, you probably know them. They are well known for their business activities. We have Elie GIRARD. You are executive chair of Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob is a French startup which was founded in 2020, and it specializes in quantum computing. You also were in leadership with Atos. You led that group, and you also had a management role with Orange. Benoît, DARDE, you're a partner with Wavestone, a management consultancy focusing on organizational transformation. I think you have 18 business lines, so that's pretty significant, and you are listed on the stock exchange in Paris. I'm going to give both of you 3 or 4 minutes to speak, and then we're going to move on to a time of discussion and debate. We've just got a half-hour session ahead of us. So first of all, Elie GIRARD, in concrete terms, I want to be a bit provocative here. Is there any space for science and technology in solving climate issues today? Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I think it's a real question. Given the title, Climate Technology Won't Save Us All, I think this is a question that was raised about 25 years ago at the start of the 2000s, the noughties, where we're in a time where we believed that technology could save us, and I don't think the mindset is the same now. The issue is what you're saying. Is there still space for science and technology? Do we still believe in its promises? And I think that's the key issue today. There are two problems in understanding this question. Before we talk about technology as a solution for climate change, or how climate change can contribute to slowing down global heating, global warming, there's an issue about the denial of science and the understanding of climate change. It's not just an issue in Donald Trump's USA, where people don't want to consider climate change as a reality, where they live in parallel worlds and deny reality. I was looking at the figures from the most recent survey from the ADEME organization in France, so it's the agent for energy management in France. In France, at the end of 2024, 38% of people were climate skeptics. This figure was dropping gradually over time, but over the last 5 years, it's going back up. So there's an increase in climate skepticism. So that's a very significant proportion of the French population that don't accept a certain number of scientific established facts. That's the first issue. And the second problem is the one that we're looking at today. This fairly broad-based reticence, which is increasing, a reticence to use technology to reduce the effects of climate change. And this second problem, which is often linked to beliefs in a form of degrowth that will put pressure on part of the population, that is contributing to the first problem, which means that more and more people who weren't climate skeptics in the past are becoming climate skeptics. And they talk about measures around degrowth and frugal, thrifty living. So the issue we're looking at today is not are we exaggerating what we're saying about science, but does science and technology still have space in public debate over climate change? Benoît, is it rational to rely on growth and technology to resolve climate change? There are lots of good examples of innovation. Well, what my suggestion would be to present an outlook that we have as a business, an outlook that we believe is rational, non-illusory. We believe that it's possible to rely on growth along with science and technology in order to address the environmental crisis. And I do tend to talk about environmental crisis rather than environmental transition, because in thinking about technology, there will be other impacts on rare earths, on water resources, and so on. So my answer to the question is yes, I do think we should believe that science and technology can help us. In science and technology, if we go back to some of the jargon that we use, there are two broad categories of technologies that we can rely on. One is deep tech, the research and development that is game-changing in terms of the way that we see the world. An example I can give is quantum computing or artificial intelligence, but there's also a lot of work in the field of energy, the work that is carried out at the moment to promote nuclear fusion as an energy source. Then there is the scaling up of applications, what we describe often as green tech. It's very widespread, particularly in France. A lot of the startups in France are startups that provide solutions for the environmental transition, and they often get a lot of finance and generate a lot of employment. So deep tech and green tech need to build bridges, need to go forward quickly in order to develop applications for every business sector. So in my view, if we were to oppose innovation and growth with climate change, that's something we need to move beyond. We need to move beyond this phase where people are skeptical of science and technology. Elie, Girard, let me go back to you. You talk about the fact that science and technology is losing ground in public debate, particularly around climate change. Do you think these two aspects have an answer to give? We've talked about quantum computation. It would be nice to hear what you say about that, because you're one of the specialists. I think what I was trying to point to was the very significant decline in trust in science and the reticence that people have in France to use technologies in the area of the transitions. I'm not trying to say that science can do everything, not at all. I just want to make sure that science and technology have the place they deserve. Climate change is like the issue of pensions. There are three aspects that you need to play on all at the same time. It's difficult to have a very balanced public discourse of saying we need to act on these three parameters without being a bit of a caricature. Some people focusing on technology, some can be focusing on degrowth and sobriety. There are three key things. One is to produce less, and what I mean by that is to avoid wastage and stop producing things that are useless. Then producing things better, so we need to improve production processes. making sure that production processes are more productive using automation. France is behind the rest of Europe in this regard, and also produced with less carbon. And then we need to use carbon capture as well. Technology can help on two of these. Benoît, as an investor, is finance a miracle solution? Is finance and investment in all of these new technologies and new companies the solution to take us towards cleaner energy and cleaner industry? That's the theory that we hear people referring to as greenwashing. There are companies that say, we're doing all of this, but when you scratch the surface, there is a lot that's going on, but it's perhaps not as deep as what they're talking about. Well, finance is an important aspect. A framework has been set up within Europe whereby, beyond just convincing the public, we need to make sure that as private companies, we align our investments to make sure that we do have a positive impact on the environmental crisis. The framework is in place in Europe. From a certain threshold, we have reporting obligations. We have to look at what impacts our business activities have on the environment. The CSRD is a legal framework, and we're going to need to comply with it and make sure that our businesses fit with these objectives. A roadmap has also been drawn up. Zero greenhouse gas in Europe by 2050, that's the Green Deal. So all of this has been laid out, and now it's our responsibility in all of our production activities. We need to ensure that we get as efficient as possible. And what do you think about regulation? Is it a hindrance for you, an obstacle? Regulation doesn't bother me. It's sometimes not pragmatic enough. Sometimes it's a very narrow perspective, and the impact studies, the impact assessments of the economic effects of some of the initiatives aren't great. There needs to be better dialogue between public and private sector on this area. Regulation doesn't bother me, but what does bother me, when the framework has been laid down in Europe, when people want to use this framework to promote real champions like Alice and Bob in quantum computing, we need to have champions. We need a single market. With the single market, let's give our startups the opportunity to develop across a huge European market. Elie, GIRARD, we've talked a bit about quantum computing and artificial intelligence. So what role do you see for AI in slowing down climate change? Well, I think AI does have a big role to play in optimizing electricity consumption, optimizing electricity grids, in promoting biodiversity. I think there's a lot of areas in which AI could be useful, but if I want to respond to the title of the controversy, it's difficult to find controversy between the two of you. I'm trying to generate a bit of controversy here. Controversy around the cliche that AI would be able to do everything. If we were to highlight some priorities for where generative AI will have some massive impacts, I don't think it's particularly in responding to global warming that AI will have the most thoroughgoing effects. Quantum computing could have, and we're not there yet, it's going to take a few years yet. Isn't that all very energy hungry? Your opponents would generally say that, but in terms of AI, people say that it's use a lot of energy through the data centers that are used. Quantum computing has an energy consumption that is 1,000 times lower for the same computing power than AI. It's not going to be easy in terms of rare earths. It's not a simple issue, but in terms of consumption, it's much lower than AI. But there is a paradox I'd like to talk about. There's a paradox which suggests that the increase in energy consumption is because of digital technology, I just want to put things into perspective. Data centers around the world are set to consume 1,000 terawatt hours. The overall energy consumption is 200,000 terawatt hours. So this line of energy consumption, this item is growing significantly because AI is leading to the growth in data centers. It's 1,000 out of 200,000 terawatt hours. This item, which is increasing, will enable us to reduce energy consumption between 15 and 20% in all of the other industrial sectors. Benoît, do you want to just give a response to that? I don't know really whether AI or quantum computing is the most promising sector, but when we talk about things divided by 1,000, that's a real revolution when you think about energy consumption divided by 1,000. When quantum computing will come through, it's a few years down the road, it's not yet ready. AI is already here. We don't need to consider them as opposed. We need to take all of the opportunities for innovation. I mentioned nuclear fusion a little bit earlier. When you think about how magma needs to be managed for nuclear fusion, there are AI models which enable to optimize the way the magnetic coils are used all around the magma in order to obtain energy from nuclear fusion. So these innovations, these major evolutions will lead us to great change. As entrepreneurs, we need to believe in it. We need to work hard with the public authorities to make sure that the right policies are put in place to incentivize the use of these technologies to promote carbon neutrality. Elie, do you agree with that? AI and quantum computing don't have the same status. AI exists today. Quantum computing doesn't yet exist, but we think it will come online by about 2030 with rapidly increasing performance from 2030 onwards. So it's very soon, it's very close. The difference with quantum computing is a technology that looks at the fundamentals. It's a technology which uses a description, or a deep description of matter. When you talk about AI, to think about today's issues, what can be done to drastically slow down global warming, unfortunately, it's not about trying to improve things by 20 or 30%. The processes that we need, processes that will create a massive dip in the curve. Quantum computing looks at the fundamentals. It will enable us to create new materials, materials for batteries, for example. We can simulate the battery materials. We'll be able to simulate molecules of several atoms that will be able to be absorbers. They will be able to capture CO2 molecules. These are fundamental game-changing technologies. Let's perhaps leave AI and quantum to one side, but it does seem that there's a bit of a split between public opinion and technology and energy issues and their relation to climate change. How can we bring these two worlds together? How can we reconcile the public with these technologies which are unavoidable today?
Moi, je vais souligner.
Well, what about afterwards? I'm going to underline the actions in progress that have been taking place for some time. Numium's actions, for instance, with a platform called Planet Tech Care, the objective of which is to train, educate, to reach out and make people understand and create bridges between two worlds and different worlds when we talk about tech dependence, because we have to deal with tech dependency and try to make digital meetings in Strasbourg with all the IT universes of the large businesses, but also with the big leaders of digital service providers. This is a way to have a think tank and to together to make decisions that will improve efficiency in the production of our industrial efficiency. And this is very important. The public opinion will manage to impact it as we go along. But first of all, we should actually work on the ongoing actions. So we should put technology back at the heart of everything we do, yes. I think that evil is even deeper here. Everything starts with education, with initial education. As I said earlier, it's very dramatic that we have 18% of French people, we're not talking about Americans from the Midwest actually, that are climate skeptic, that do not believe climate change to be true. So we have a problem of initial education. I'm being outdated here, but still, when we talk about biology, when we talk about tech, when we talk about the reality of the truths and our relationship with the truth, this is something that we should start from scratch again. And with maps, I know that this raises a lot of problems, but we should put maps back at the heart of our curriculum, and we should go back to the fundamentals. I'm not saying that the math peoples are not good. I'm talking about those that are not, that are layman when in terms of mathematics. So we have to be aware that science is important, and relativism is not everything, and it's not a silver bullet. Okay, we see today that after the A-levels, there's more and more people go more and more towards commercial schools rather than towards scientific schools, and we need to change our way around. We need to find the right message to convey. This needs to be conveyed by the political leaders, because otherwise we are going to miss the train, because the world is going to be more and more tech-driven. It's not the engineers. We still have a lot of excellent engineers. Quantic sciences, we are at the cutting edge with the US on that subject. It's not for nothing. But the problem is, what about non-engineers? 2 or 3 decades ago, they had a bit of a general scientific culture, and it's no longer there. And it's not a matter of having engineers. What about regulations that we mentioned earlier? Isn't it a hindrance when we have Trump that is so offensive today? Maybe it makes us less competitive, or maybe it will be a hurdle, or it will put a brake on everything that we have positive when it comes to energy transition. Well, it can have a negative impact because there's a discrepancy, a huge gap in terms of competitiveness. We'll have a lot of constraints, the additional constraints that we set. And for the midterm, I think it will be a benefit, because when I see the Americas, I don't think they will turn their back on energy and climate regulations. And when they make a decision, they will make a strong decision on the point. So in a way, it's a good thing to set the framework. We have to be as pragmatic as possible, and I think we have a little bit of margin on that point. Are you afraid of this situation? What about the profit of Trumpization, of the evolution of things? Well, what about brains? I'm afraid of that, but I'm also afraid that we would pay homage to Trump for everything. Trumpization seems to be a phenomenon that seems to be present everywhere in all democracies, but he's not responsible for the weakening of minds or the creation of parallel truths in democracies such as France. This is our mistake, and we have to blame only ourselves. I have a question. What about the place of Europe worldwide? Is it a parallel phenomenon, or is it important? You're going to say it's important, obviously, because we can't be against the way of the world. But maybe there's a problem here because Europe is disunited and should have more unity. I think there's a good momentum. We have financing capacities, we have skills, and we have awareness. And we are aware that we are dependent. And I think this is the right time now to have a real response, and we should have trust. Yes, same thing here. We have an opportunity as we never have in the past. We have one issue that will remain, that you have mentioned, funding innovation. This is where, for public funding from Europe, it's okay, but for private funding on DTech and for the beginning of innovation and for venture capital, this is the real problem of innovation in Europe today. We haven't managed to have a real debate and controversy because you actually complete one another. We had different positions, but each in your field of expertise. Thank you to all of you to have attended this controversy session, and I'll invite you to attend the other sessions because there are many other interesting ones. Thank you to all of you.